Hello folks, and welcome to the first ever Itch.io Roulette, a weekly series where I've hit the random button on indie games platform Itch.io and play what comes out, taking time to analyse what works, what doesn't, and why it matters. Our inaugural game is a great little text adventure from Julia Pitts called The Wanderer, which is made for Games Done Quick 1.5. It's a text-based RPG, much in the vein of choose your own adventure books from the 90s, such as the Fighting Fantasy series or Lone Wolf, or as I landed on as a child, the Goosebumps books, which in hindsight weren't really that very good. But it comes by the way of modernised versions of some of the earliest video games text-based adventures, such as the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or Zork. You play as Pompeia, who's seeking to bring back an item called the Heartseed to a village that will slowly die without it, tracking down the thief of said Heartseed, Greltzer. On the way you'll come across caves, kidnappings, and a badass ally, with the game relying on narrative, with key points in the story driven by the decisions you make and some dice rolls. Now, from the off, there's some really neat things in The Wanderer that stand out on the first screen of the game where you define your playstyle. Firstly, I like the choice to make you select a weakness. It's a very small thing, but it's something that can add a little bit of depth to a character and have some fun impact on the gameplay. And I also really enjoy how you choose the style of play with these drop-down boxes that set your stats for you, easing the burden from the player from the outset, and avoiding the statistical overload of many other games such as Disco Elysium, which, as much as I love it, can be initially overwhelming. This translates into another of the game's strengths, in how it shows you the chance of succeeding with a simple percentage. Humans are notoriously bad at internalising probability. It's one of the main reasons gambling odds are always something like 12 to 1, plus 350, or 2.1, because people are more likely to put money on that, rather than if you spelled out as, this bet has a 23% chance of winning. So the Wanderer gets points for just being upfront on your odds of succeeding, but also just being a lot easier to understand. As much as I love the intricacies of tabletop-inspired RPGs, lines of text like this make my brain melt, and having it laid out more simply means the tempo of gameplay is largely uninterrupted and allows you to focus on the story. Which is great, because the story is really pleasing and the main strength of the game, aided by its short length. Perhaps it's the effect of coming off long-form epics I've been playing like the Final Fantasy VII Remake, Disco Elysium, or Divinity Original Sin 2, but it's refreshing to take in a snippet of a greater tale. We know nothing of Pompeia's life before this, and we'll find out nothing about the after. And even though it's a game that's dealing with the peril of an entire village with some kidnapping garnished in for good measure, it feels refreshingly low stakes. It can be nice to not have to save the entire world for once. This is aided by the writing, which is pretty good. Everything goes at a steady pace, and Pitts doesn't fall into the trap of overwrought and overwritten descriptions of its people and places, which in turn allows the narrative to maintain a sense of urgency, which aligns well with the events of the game. What helps us is the handy click-in windows to get more detail on a place or person, helping flesh out the world in an easy way. There's no need to try and make people absorb an entire world in a 10-minute game, so Pitts maximises this by ensuring every piece of information matters. In many ways, it does feel like speeding one of those aforementioned choose your own adventure books from the 90s. There's an eagerness to get to the outcomes of your actions. What's more is the fact that The Wanderer also manages to highlight a more diverse cast of characters in about 15 minutes of gameplay than several AAA studios have managed in 15 years, and it doesn't feel forced or contrived in the slightest. It's just people going about their admittedly very exciting lives and making no bones about it, and sometimes you just need that. So all in all, The Wanderer is a great little game that you can get through in about 5 to 10 minutes, and a very pleasant surprise. I'd recommend checking it out, the link is in the description below. So thank you for watching this edition of the Itch.io Roulette. Remember, it'll be back every Wednesday. And now for the bit that nobody likes. If you could be so kind, please like the video, and if you enjoyed it, please share it around or consider subscribing.